Hey everyone, welcome back to DC Motor Works, where today we've got two W211 E55 AMGs in the shop. And today we're going to show you why you shouldn't buy one. Let's get started. So your first question to us will probably be, well, DC Motor Works, we're told by everyone that this is one of the best E-Class generation AMG cars ever made. Why wouldn't I want to buy one? And actually, we would agree with you. These are fabulous cars. With the M113K supercharged engine, this was run from 2003 to 2006. Most sought after for the 05, 06 models, as they had some updates and changes that made them the best of the run, of course. But unfortunately, as these cars have gotten cheap and they're in their fourth, fifth, sixth owners, I've seen as many as 11 and 12 owners on these cars. As we say time and time again, the cars depreciate, but the service does not. And as these have shown their age, this has shown itself time and time again as they come into the shop. So we're going to take you on a deep dive into these two and show you why. So I'll start with the silver one here. This is a 2003 model, so this is the first year. One of the first things you'll notice offhand is the bumper here. It's not right. So that is a 63 style bumper that was ran from 2007 to 2009. And that plus the grille is much more aesthetically pleasing on this model than the original one that you can see there. So it's a very common upgrade. However, it's usually not done very well. You can see this one's got some paint peeling there, and usually they're going to be an aftermarket bumper because the factory AMG one is so expensive. And the fitment's not great. This one we actually fixed somewhat in here. It was hanging off. A lot of times you get this fitment around the headlights that's incorrect. So while it is meant to be a cosmetic upgrade, it doesn't usually end up looking that great. You can see also this one is no longer on its factory wheels. But the main issue this car came in with is that it had a no start condition. It would spin, but not start. Just come to find out the fuel pump wasn't running. So we started digging into that. Came back into the trunk here. See, we've still got it disassembled. So on the AMGs, they run two pumps, and they've got a separate relay and fuse in the rear, which is different from the regular models. And you can see here, this fuse is melting, and the fuse box melted as well. So we started with that, put the fuse box in, realized it still wasn't working. So back behind this trim panel here is the relay for the fuel pump. You can see it melted too. So we replaced both of those items, and now the fuel pump would run, and we did an amp draw on it. It was running about 28, 29 amps, which wasn't too bad. This circuit is meant for a 40 amp. But you can see here where things really got exciting. This is the wiring that goes to the relay over here. And you can see it's got corroded solder joints. It's got the quick solder joints that aren't melted correctly. It's overall a very, very sloppy job. So this wiring was getting so hot, it was actually a potential fire hazard, as it could catch fire back here and totally melt down this car. As with you sitting in the driver's seat, you wouldn't really notice something was wrong if the fuel pump stayed running until you started the smoke to get all the way up to the front of the cabin. And on these Mercedes, the trunk is pretty well isolated from the rest of the car. You can see some other evidence here. This thing had some kind of crazy sound system installed in it. And with these ones, with their fiber optic sound, usually they hack all that stuff up and it never sounds right afterwards, and generally it's just not a good job. Here you can see that aftermarket radio we were talking about. And if you look, this should be flush. The fitment's not right. Got parts added on, like your microphone and so forth. And thankfully they didn't drill into this one, which I have seen many times. It looks like it's just adhesive taped onto here. Moving on, you can see the headliner here has been attempted to be redone and suede. You can see the visors are mismatched. They're the regular cloth. And the job done just was pretty lackluster. Now this is no knock towards the client that has this car. He purchased this car this way and he's trying to get it back to where he can daily drive it again. See, this handle's missing as well. We've got glue job repair here on an inexpensive piece of trim. Thankfully, the center console's in good shape. Usually on these, they're all wrinkled up by now. The handle still works there, at least all that's still working. Next, looking at the pewter car here, you can see it also is not on factory wheels. The calipers have been painted. You can see the fenders damaged here because this car is actually lowered. And when you lower them, you have to be especially careful when you're turning. If they're too low, this is what happens. So unfortunately, on the otherwise great paintwork car, the fenders have been damaged. See, we got some modification to the grille there. Got this lower splitter installed. It's always funny to me when these look lowered, because to me it just looks like the air suspension has an issue. Got a carbon fiber rear spoiler and a diffuser, which you can see is peeling. It's just double-sided taped, and it just has like wood screws screwed into the factory rear bumper. And the factory rear diffuser piece is about $400. It's just a black piece of plastic, but you end up costing yourself more doing these modifications than if you'd just left it alone. We got our trunk handle missing here. Otherwise, things look pretty tidy in here. As far as that, this one hasn't been messed with too much. Stepping into the interior of the pewter car here. First thing you'll notice is the chrome interior door handles peeling. These actually, when they peel, these edges will be so sharp they can cut you. You need to be very careful with that. Got a aftermarket badge on our airbag here. This is what I was talking about with the center console. Pretty common on these. No particular fault of anyone. It usually is just oils and stuff in your skin make the material loosen. This one does still have its factory radio. See here some inexpensive repairs to the visors. These will split open at the seam here. You can see they overdid the glue, which stains the Alcantara or suede. And it's hanging down in the rear, unfortunately, but that is pretty common as well. But other than that, this car is very tidy. The question on this one is when you get under the hood. Let's take a look. So here we are under the hood. See, it actually does look pretty good in here. Someone has painted the surge tanks and the engine covers and air boxes. We've also got a heat wrap on the intake tubes here. Here you can see something that's not present on the other car. So this is a split cooling. So this separates the charge air cooler from the regular engine coolant to help keep the temperatures down. You can see also here we've got some different pulleys in this brace here. This is what's called a belt wrap kit. Supercharger has also been painted on this one. But this one has a smaller supercharger pulley on it, which is a very common modification. Thankfully it is not a fixed pulley, it is still on a clutch. The fixed pulley cars never seem to run right. And even on these, with the smaller pulley this size, I think this one's around a 74 millimeter or something along those lines. It's very jerky and unpleasant to drive, even though it is very powerful. It's also got some mid-length headers. But actually when we got this car in, the collector on the headers was leaking so badly and into the cabin, it would make you sick at your stomach when you drove. Also, when you drive this car, it's just very jerky, especially when you first start it. You can tell the tune isn't quite right. And when you're accelerating, the car jerks you back and forth. And overall, the drivability of this car, which was so great from the factory, is not as enjoyable as it should be, even though it has all this added power. On the silver one here, it is more so factory. It does have the belt wrap kit, but the pulley is a factory size. And as far as we know, this one doesn't have any type of tune or anything. It drives pretty normal. So y'all, once you put all this together on these cars, plus usually they'll have a lot of deferred maintenance, as these things are usually run on a tighter budget once they've gotten to this age. And it's very unfortunate also, as we'll see, we'll give a list of needs of the car, and they'll say, no, I can't do that, I can't afford that. But then you'll see them a couple days later, they'll send you a picture, they got a new set of wheels, they got the car tinted, they got some of these carbon fiber pieces put on it, and then they'll come to you and say, hey, my car's broken, what do I do? And it's like, well, we told you what to do, but they didn't have their priorities in the right place for the car, and they end up neglected, which again we find very unfortunate because these cars are amazing. It's just for the price they command now, even as they sit neglected and modified and things cut, hacked, so forth, and non-factory parts, they still want way too much money for these. So once you add up getting all the service up to date, and if you want returning to factory parts, you're spending crazy amounts of money compared to the values. And unfortunately, nice ones are getting really, really hard to find. We hope you all enjoyed this video. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.